Next on our list are our citizen comments, and we do have some individuals. Would you please step forward as your name is called? You'll have 3 minutes to address County Council. The first one is Inez Miller. Good evening.
Members of council, my name is Inez Miller. I'm a resident of St. Helena Island. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm here tonight with some of my younger seniors, younger than I am, that are here from the St. Helena Senior Center. And I'm asking you to consider not putting us on the PALS or Love House Christian Center, Love House Center, because we'd like to stay. We're at Beaufort Jasper Comprehensive Clinic on St. Helena. The senior center is a part of that building, and we would like to remain the way we are and not be put under PALS. PALS is not good for the residents of St. Helena and keeping up their buildings, particularly Gloria Potts Center. I'm a poll worker there. That's the only time that center seems to operate. I can't even wash my hands there because the stench that comes from the water. They get a report on this, I think, for the past 7 years, facilities maintenance. Nothing has been done along with other things. I also ask that if you have any monies to give the community, that you please consider the seniors at St. Helena Center or seniors everywhere. Please consider us CARES Act monies, whatever monies, please consider giving us some of those funds. And please, again, do not allow Parks and Leisure to take over our senior center or Love House Ministries, and try to upgrade our centers to where there are nice, beautiful buildings like they have over in Bluffton and Hilton Head. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Anita Prather, or Prather.
Well, good evening, good evening, good evening. Just want to make it official that the original Gullah Festival of South Carolina is returning after a 2-year hiatus from COVID. We've been working hard to make sure that it's a festival that's inclusive of all of our citizens as well as our visitors. So this year, the fencing is coming down. Hallelujah. Glad about that, but just to let you know, inflation is going up. So, but we want to make sure that everybody knows that they're invited to come. It's Memorial Day weekend, Decoration Day. That was the original festival that began the Gullah Festival. And so we want to make sure that you come out, support it. It starts on May 27th through the 29th. Don't forget the parade is back this year on that Monday, and the military services in the cemetery. But again, we want to make sure that you get the word out to everybody, and everybody is welcome to come. We're looking for volunteers. We're looking for sponsorship. We're looking for sponsorship. We're looking for sponsorship. But anyway, God bless. Thank you all for your service. Get the word out. Please pass it. Send it on all your social media. Tell folks, come on to Beaufort, South Carolina, because this is the place to be for Memorial Day weekend. Decoration Day. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Prater, before you leave, Ms. Prater,
Yes, sir.
before you leave,
You gonna give us 100,000? Yes, sir.
I would love for you to just make comment about Sierra Leone.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. We had the opportunity, the Gullah Traveling Theater, to be invited by the mayor of Freetown in 2019 to come and be part of their celebration over there. And we met some wonderful young people that were college students who had completed 3 years in tourism. They're going to be the first graduating class of tourism majors. And just, fell in love with them. They were our interns and our guides as part of the 10 days that we were over there. We've been trying to get them here since 2020, before we knew COVID. Well, COVID came and that kind of put a stop on everything, but we've been back and forth with Dr. Panu at USCB about getting them here to finish up their tourism program and to really work on that international tourism between Sierra Leone, West Africa, the West Barbados and the West Indies, Trinidad, and Nova Scotia, and Beaufort, South Carolina. So we're finally getting them here after a lot of prayer and some more prayer and some more prayer. They will be here on May 26th, and they will be our guests until June the 9th. And so we want Beaufort that you all will give them the key to the county, to the city, and just open your arms because they were so welcoming to us over there, and they're looking forward to us bringing others to Sierra Leone, and they're coming. And so this is going to be a great stepping stone for us. I never seen young people so excited about learning about what happened to us. Their education, a lot of them, sometimes we talk about candlelights and lanterns, but that's what they literally study from. Even when COVID stepped in, they went online and started finding classes and modules that they're not going to even get grades for. That's just how hungry they are about this history. And so I think it'll be a great inspiration for our young people who take so much for granted here to hear the stories of young people who survived the Civil War over there and still have this thirst for learning, thirst for heritage, and such a pride in it. So please come out and meet our young people. God bless. Thank you.
Next is J. Edward Allen. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Mr. Chairman, members of council, first I'm going to deviate a little bit. I would like, we just recognize just recognize Roland Gardner. But I would be remiss as chairman of the board for Beaufort Jasper Hampton Comprehensive Health if I don't introduce our new executive officer, Dr. Faith Bouquet. Okay. She looks a whole lot better than Roland, and she is a low country girl from Charleston, so she's at home. But my reason for appearing before you is that when we look around, obviously y'all can tell I'm gray-headed, I'm old, looking at the, oh, I'm not gonna say that, but there are a few people up there that look a little bit like me. But the first person that came up was talking about the Senior Citizen Center at the Leroy Brown on St. Helena Island and the importance of that center to our seniors. My 95-year-old mother was attending that, and when we had to shut the center down because of COVID, I saw what it did in terms of the decline in her mental status. And a lot of that was because of the lack of socialization that we had at that center. Please try your level best to keep that facility open. Continue the bond that you have with Beaufort Jasper Hampton Comprehensive Health and utilizing that facility for those members of our society that need that and need that socialization. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Our last speaker is Mitch Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell.
Good evening, Mr. Passmith, council members, staff, those of us present and also participating virtually. I'm Mitch Mitchell, City Councilman at Large, City of Beaufort. I'm here this evening to speak on behalf of the naming of the Charles Lynn Brown Community Center pool, aka Green Street Gym, in honor of Mr. Alvin Settles. While there's much I could say about Mr. Settles, I did read the resolution that was shared with me by Mr. Chuck Atkinson, and I think that covers it very adequately and beautifully. So I'll save the reading of that for later when it comes up. I wish to thank the county administrator and his assistant, Chuck Atkinson, for fast-tracking this. I think it was fast-tracked. Maybe it was just normal business here at the county. But in any event, we had a conversation about a month and a half ago, and I asked Mr. Greenway and Mr. Atkinson to move this forward. I did not know the process. He shared it with me. So at this time, I'd also like to thank the Community Services Committee for recommending what I understand was unanimously that this come before you. So what I'd like to ask you this evening is that you do the same, that you approve it unanimously. Mr. Settles was born in Aiken, South Carolina, but he's a true Beaufortonian. He spent 30 plus years teaching in the DoD school system at Laurel Bay. But more importantly, and why I'm here before you this evening, is that he spent the rest of his time in the pool teaching the life-saving skill and the fun-loving skill of swimming. So much of that time that he spent in the pool was obviously taken away from his lovely wife, Gloria, sitting right here behind me. So I hope that we don't disappoint her. I spoke with her this morning, and she was very excited about that, very thankful for the way the process has been moving forward. I think this will be an easy one. So again, I ask your unanimous approval. I think maybe after the resolution that Ms. Settles, maybe her daughter would like to make comments in my senior moment. Don't tell me, I'm right here. Kristen may want to come up and make remarks. So again, I thank you very much for allowing this opportunity for me to speak to this purpose. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, we will move on to the committee reports. Any member of council wish to talk about their committees?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. McCallum?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to make a brief statement. We had a presentation at the Community Services from the new manager of Hunting Island State Park. It was a very informative and descriptive discussion of what's happening out there. I think that everyone who is interested in going to that state park would be happy to hear the report, and it may serve as an invitation to others who had not even considered going there. So I asked the public information officer for the county to prepare a press release, which I saw that he did, and it was distributed. And we also asked the county channel to videotape the presentation. So if any members of council who were not at the community services meeting, or anyone in the audience tonight here at the council chambers or in the television audience who wish to see that presentation on the great improvements that have occurred in Hunting Island State Park, you can go to the county channel and you will find that video in the archives. I encourage you to have a look at it. It's extremely informative and gives you a good idea of what you can expect to have happen out there during the summer season. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Howard?
Yes, sir. I attended the Town of Port Royal's budget workshop and their workshop last Wednesday. They are looking at a 5.9 COLA for their employees for next year. Also, the Sands boat landing, the parking area is being restriped. It'll probably be done maybe by Thursday. And also, I'd like to share with the public that the Sands will remain open. There is some discussion about who owns the boat landing itself, but that is going to be worked out. And we met today, actually, with the parties involved, and we're working on getting that solved. But the Sands will be maintained and will be open until as long as necessary until we get all the intergovernmental agreements done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rodman?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, public facilities, a week from today, we will be receiving a presentation from the Citizens Committee on the possibility of the 1 penny transportation referendum. Probably around 4 o'clock. It's tentatively scheduled for that. So I think that'll be important and of interest to a lot of people. So we look forward to everybody tuning in.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee will meet before Public Facilities next Monday at 2 o'clock. We'll have our normal presentations, and I think the Sheriff's Department is presenting at that time, which everyone likes to see that, as we get closer to our fiscal year 23 approved budget.
Thank you. Any others? Seeing none, we're now ready to move to the public hearings and action items. As we discussed, we are rearranging the agenda. So we're going to take up item number 17. So I would ask a member of council for a motion to approve of a resolution to name the Lynn Brown Recreation Center outdoor pool in honor of Mr. Alvin Settles.
Mr. Chairman, I'm proud to make that motion. Thank you very much.
Mr. McKellen.
I'll second.
Mr. Dawson makes the second. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion, this will be approved unanimously without objection, and there are no objections. Congratulations. Mrs. Settle, did you want to say something?
Yes, sir, please.
Please come forward.
All council members and everyone else who's here, but particularly those who have worked on this. It means so much to me, but I cannot say it's just me. My daughter's here, but so many of the people who have supported Alvin throughout the years, who have gone there with their children or have taken classes themselves, are here as well. He has been in the pool more than anything else. He loved it. Even though he had a job that he loved, I think if someone was you could work year-round at the pool with the children and the whole community, he would have done that, because that was his heart. He loved it from the beginning. Before we got married, he was talking about swimming. And he also loved swimming himself, and he wanted to make sure that everybody had the opportunity to learn how to swim, both children and adults. So just having this done is just wonderful. I know he loves to sing and he loves to talk, so I know he's just really joyful today for this happening. So I just really wanted to thank you all. I want to thank Councilman here, but also all of you and anyone else who had anything to do with this, because it is a real blessing. But I am so happy about it. And I thank all the people of Beaufort County and whoever you brought to the pool when he was there working, because it was all fun for him. So thank you very much. I appreciate the work done, because now everybody will know of my husband, Alvin Settles. And it was a year in April that he passed. So in case somebody didn't want to know where he is, if you did not know him before. But he is even more happier now, because I am as well. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Next on our...
Just a moment.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment?
Hold on a second, Mr. Somerville.
I follow Mr. Somerville.
Go ahead, Mr. Somerville.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's going to be very brief. I just want to say that I don't know how many of you have ever tried to teach your children how to swim. I did, and I was a miserable failure. I was a lifeguard. I'm a pretty good swimmer, but that didn't seem to matter. I was a miserable failure at teaching my children. So somebody introduced me to Alvin Settles, and he was a godsend. He taught both of my daughters to swim. One of them went on to be a lifeguard for 2 years, and both of them swim like porpoises. And so I just want to say thank you. He was not only a great man, he was a great teacher. Thank you.
Just a little bit on where he had his children. Alvin actually had my grandkids and my nephew, and they are true swimmers today because of him. So I just want to publicly say thank you, and thank you to your daughter Christian as well.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dawson.
Ms. Settles, we thank you for the time, the service, the love that Alvin showed to the Beaufort city community. We thank you for the time that he spent away from you and his dedication to the community, to children in general. And I just regret that we didn't give him some recognition before he expired. But on behalf of council, we say thank you for your belated husband, Alvin. Thank you. God bless you.
Okay, item number 11 is the approval of our consent agenda. I would ask a member of council to make a motion for approval of the 4 items coming from Community Services and Public Safety, the Executive Committee, and the Natural Resources Committee.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rodman makes the motion. A second.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Howard makes the second. Duly motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion regarding the consent agenda? I see no discussion. Therefore, the consent agenda will be approved without objection, and there are no objections. Item number 12 is a public hearing and second reading of an ordinance to allocate 2018 1-cent sales tax additional revenue to the Sidewalks and Multi-Use Pathways Program in the amount of $15,449,734.75. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Lawson makes the motion. Mr. Cunningham made the second.
Okay.
Before I go to council, is there any member of the public who wishes to comment on this item? Seeing none, we will close the public comment. Are there any comments by any member of council? Mr. Rodman.
Yes, the history of the pathways is that we put an item on the last referendum, and it was in the amount of 10 million. And we had listed on there a series of projects to draw from, and the number of projects that were listed was much greater than the 10 million that was available. So I've been a strong and early proponent that if we had extra money, we should certainly use that for the pathways. However, I'm not convinced that we should take all of the 16 million and increase the 10 million to 26 million. And I'd asked at the last meeting that we get an update on what monies might be required for the Ladies Island part of the project, which we know does not have enough money, and certainly the corridor project. I don't know if that's available, but if it's not, perhaps we could take that up at Public Facilities next Monday and get an overview of that. So don't want to hold it up, but I do think that I'm not convinced that we should put 100% of the money into pathways.
Any other questions?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McGowan.
Mr. Rodman, did you indicate it was 10 million plus 16 million for a total of 26?
Yes, that's going to be correct.
The original amount of money in the sales tax referendum back in 2018 was $10 million for the pathways. It wasn't nearly enough. This will be an additional $15.5 million towards the completion of the remaining projects that were on that list. Does that answer your question, Mr. McCullen?
Is any of that money being made available for the corridor project with regard to the building the Stony area, making it a better?
No, no.
None of it?
The Stony project is a part and parcel of the bridge project.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Do we need a roll call vote, or are you going? Okay, so then this will be approved by unanimous vote. I see no objections, therefore the item number 12 is approved as written. Item number 13, I ask a member to make a motion for the first reading of an ordinance for a text amendment to the Community Development Code, sections in Division 3.2 and sections in Division 3.3 to correct and clarify parking space requirement conflicts between zoning districts and the parking space requirements table in section 5.5.40.b.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion.
Ms. Howard makes the motion. A second, please. Mr. Rodman makes the second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, the first reading will be approved unanimously without objection, and I see no objections. Item 14, ask a member to approve a first reading of an ordinance for a text amendment to the Community Development Code, Appendix A.13.50.d, to clarify the standards for minimum lot size requirements for guest houses located in the May River Community Preservation District.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Howard makes the motion. A second.
I'll second it.
Mr. Lawson makes the second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir?
Rob is here, so I was reading through some of it, and I ran across south of, and I don't have it with me, I left it home, a copy of it, but south of a highway of some sort. And my question is, why south of that highway? No, if and I may be, I hope I'm speaking to the right code at this time.
Yeah, it has to do with the May River Community Preservation Area. And that was that came out of our community preservation program. So the community along the May River corridor came up with standards. And one of the things that they chose to do is to have, there's some different standards that apply to south of Highway 46 or May River Road, because that area is closer to the May River and they wanted to protect the water. So there's a lower density there than north of May River.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Merchant. Any further discussion? This item will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. Item number 15 is a first reading of an ordinance for a text amendment to the Community Development Code, Section 6.1.40.g, to clarify that both jurisdictional and non-jurisdictional wetlands must be subtracted from the gross site area to determine base site area for development. A motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Howard makes the motion. A second, please.
I'll second.
Mr. Dawson makes the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, this will be approved without objection, and there are no objections. Item number 16 is a first reading of an ordinance for a text amendment to the Community Development Code, Section 5.11.100.f.1, to close a loophole which allows specimen and mitigation trees to be removed post-construction of single-family homes.
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Howard makes the motion.
Second it.
Mr. Cunningham makes the second. Any discussion?
I have one discussion, not on the motion itself, but it does have to do with specimen trees. And I would just love for staff to look at the pine species as specimen trees. And the reason I'm saying that is because, oak trees, when they get, 30-inch in diameter, they're going to be here 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 1,000 years. But pine trees has a maturity. And once they reach that maturity, they really should be removed. And I just wonder why we keep putting pine trees on that specimen trees. Maple trees and other trees are one thing, but pine trees, even bald cypress, will be around for a while. But pine trees, once they reach a maturity, that's the life of that pine tree. I think, they need to come down. So I just want them to look at that and they can talk to some foresters and other folks and stuff to see whether they should have some kind of guidelines on pine trees.
Can I make a comment? I don't disagree with you, but I do disagree about which type of pine trees, because longleaf pine have at least 100-year lifespan, and they're very important to endangered species such as the red-cockaded woodpecker. But I think it'd be a great thing to bring up at Natural Resource Committee. Maybe we can look at specific species.
And Joe, just
Well, we'll work with the we'll work with the State Forestry Commission and Amanda Flake and have a report back to you.
Okay.
Mr. Lawson.
And just to piggyback, I wasn't going to bring it up. I'm glad you did, York, because yeah, that's what caused all the damage during Hurricane Matthew. Was all the loblolly pines that came down. Wasn't the rain, wasn't the winds. It was the trees. And my backyard is a perfect example. I lived in the same neighborhood for 26 years now. The little tree that was this big around 26 years ago now is a specimen tree, and it's not getting any bigger, and I guarantee it's going to come down on my house in the next hurricane. So I agree with I agree with the pine tree, and I also agree with the long leaf pine as well. But yeah, that's what caused us all the damage in Hurricane Matthew was pine trees coming down.
Okay. Any other discussion? So this will be approved on first reading without objection, but we will get some more updates as we move along before we have the final reading of the ordinance. There are no objections, so item number 16 is approved at first reading. Our final item is approval of a resolution authorizing the county administrator to execute the necessary documents and fund the purchase of real property consisting of approximately 2.1 acres owned by the Technical College of the Low Country. May I have such a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cunningham makes the motion and Ms. Howard makes the second. Are there any discussion?
Yeah, if I might, Mr. Chairman.
That's why I put it on so I could see you, Mr. Flewelling.
Thank you. I'm conflicted about this because I certainly understand that that the media has been playing up a shortage of housing in Beaufort County, and there may very well be some truth to that. I think we have some documentary evidence and outside counsel saying that we have such a problem. I'm worried about the effect of Beaufort County being involved in what is essentially an exercise in free markets, and I think that our heavy hand, the power of the Beaufort County purse, would really get in the way of private investment. And I think when we use government funds and remove private investment, we remove the opportunity for individual people to our citizens, our actual tax-paying citizens, making the kind of money that's necessary to improve their lives. I'm going to vote against this just on principle. I don't like the government competing with private citizens, and I think it's just wrong. And so I'm going to vote against this. Please count me as a no. But other than that, you can go ahead.
Any other questions? Mr. Lawson and then Mr. Cunningham.
Yes, I voted against this last time. I will vote for it this time. I still think it might not be the best place for affordable housing. Even if it gets upzoned to the IC zoning, that only allows to have 20 units total at 10 per acre, which I think we'd have a difficult time doing that. And you take the purchase price of $600,000 per acre, that really adds a lot to the cost. But I think the property is worth that amount. And if we can find a way to do affordable housing, I think that's great. If we can't, I know that the property will be, we'll find a useful use for it at some other point.
Mr. Cunningham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this is one of the things that Council's been talking about for years now. And I feel like we're starting to make some progress in it. It's starting to feel like, what direction do we want to take? The goal is to make some form of this to be used for affordable housing. Doesn't mean we're going to develop this property ourselves. It doesn't mean we're not going to sell it to, put it out to bid, to sell it for a company to put affordable housing in there. A lot of the discussions we've had on county council is what type of affordable housing options we're looking for. Me personally, I look for something that is either a mix of whether it is rental and lease to own homes or lower income for purchasing for workforce housing. Because my goal behind it isn't necessarily for somebody to move there and stay. It is more to move there better your life, and move on to the next level. And the reason I go into of purchasing is because right now this is a prime market of that. You have a lot of people that purchased homes years ago, and they're getting their investments back and flipping it over to another piece of property and taking advantage of that market. When you go into rental property, you don't get to capitalize on that. So I want to be able to create that opportunity for people in Beaufort County. We know we need forms of workforce housing. I have tons of employees right now that they room together or they're still living at home for this reason right here. So this is something that we need to start, chipping away at. You've heard me stand up here before and say that I'm against rezoning for big apartment complexes because I think we're going to be chasing the tail again in 5 years. Every time those agreements are up, the rent goes right back up, and we do it over again and investing that money over again and just chasing the tail. I think this is a good start for us to be able to, lock down the property and put it out for bid possibly in the future to see what's the best outcome for all of Beaufort County. We have a lot of schools. We have a lot of people that work for Beaufort County, our hospitals, that this is prime location for something along those lines.
Is there anyone else who wishes to make a statement? Mr. Glover.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm going to support this motion. And the reason being is that Beaufort County has really created a monster in the housing market over the years. And I can tell you that if I didn't build my house in the 70s, I don't think I could afford to build a house today because of this market. Sometimes the government need to really step in to assist in that. And if we're going to continue to grow in Beaufort County, we cannot bring folks in from Hampton County and Colleton County to work here. We got to also combat that with help and assistance in affordable housing. So that's what I'm going to support this motion here, because I think we need to commit ourselves and put our, as old folks used to say, the money where our mouth is. And that's what I'm hoping that we're doing right here, to make it available for some affordable use. Thank you.
Mr. Rodman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In general, I agree with Brian that this is not what we should be in, but I think we have an indication here that this could be channeled to workforce housing for the hospital, given where it's located, so I'm in favor of it. However, under the theory, if it walks like a duck and it looks like it and quacks like a duck, it just may be one. We're appropriating money here. I believe it requires 3 readings and a public hearing.
Is that a motion?
No, I don't believe you can do this.
It's a requirement, yeah. It's not a motion, it's a requirement. You can't.
It's a requirement.
You have already appropriated the money through the necessary readings through a budget amendment.
Yes.
We are bringing this back as just a safeguard move to allow you all to approve the resolution for us to actually go ahead for the purchase of the property, which is what we typically do with the purchase of property.
So was this identified for these 5 sites in an appropriation?
Yeah.
I stand corrected then. If
we've discussed this this purchase several times.
So, but these 3 properties were 3 readings and a public hearing.
Yeah, the money.
Not the money, but whether these were specifically.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Kurt and Brittany Ward weigh in on that. They got more experience with this than I, but this is the process that the legal department advised me that we needed to follow. So, Brittany, you want to take that? Apparently not.
Scared her away. Thank you, Brittany.
My apologies. The ordinance was passed for the budget amendment for the allocation of the funds, which is the ordinance section of having the purchase of the property. The state code requires a public hearing. Therefore, this resolution is being brought in front of you today for the administrator to have the authority to sign the documents. As I stated, the funds have already been appropriated the right way through the 3 readings in the ordinance, and the public hearing will be held as well.
Okay.
I have one last comment. As most people know how I stand about affordable housing and hopefully the establishment of a affordable housing trust fund for our county in Jasper, this site is in my district, and also this was TCL property. It had to be sold to local governments, so there was not an opportunity for it to be sold on the open market. I think this, as Councilman Cunningham said, it's a unique opportunity where we might be able to do something with a lease to own, and it's in a part of the city of Beaufort that lends itself to being able to do things like walk to work and or ride your bike to work, or other methods of being in an urban environment, which is another good thing for workforce housing.
Thank you. Mr. Hervishon.
Thank you. So a question and a comment. Just so I'm 100% clear, to Mr. Robbins' point, this will be the fourth time that we vote on this with these properties specifically identified?
They were identified through an ordinance for the budget amendment, and it was for property acquisition.
I'm not going to say it was the fourth time, because I think we added these after first reading to the budget amendment process. So this would be it would be like the third time that you've seen it, and you saw it in executive session as well.
Okay, appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
My comment would just be, I've voted against this the whole way through, and we continue to vote against this. I don't believe that this is an appropriate use of government funds. I don't think that we should be sticking ourselves in the middle of what I view to be a private enterprise type responsibility. So for those reasons, I'm going to vote against it.
Okay. Who hasn't spoken yet? Mr. Flewelling, your comment.
Thanks. Not a comment, actually a question. I'm wondering, as I drive by this property, and I do, and I have often over the years, it's been rented. These various properties are rented out to individual people. What's going to happen to those people and the rent that they're paying? Or have they been empty for some short period of time?
Yeah, I believe they're vacant.
They've been vacant since December.
December. Okay.
But we can make sure that we once the purchase goes through, we can make sure that we do necessary work. And there's no reason for us to let the houses sit there vacant. We can rent them out until we figure out the plan for what we're going to do with them as well. Working with we're currently discussing options with the housing authority and looking at and exploring other options that we'll bring back to you all in more detail down the road.
Wow. All right. Thank you.
Okay. We'll call the roll.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Okay. I'm still confused about what Brittany said, whether we do or don't have to have a public hearing. And it's not clear to me that we did an appropriation that specifically mentioned these properties, which I would guess that we have to do. If I stand corrected, if these properties were listed, but I sure don't remember it.
Yes, sir. The ordinance did list them, the budget amendment ordinance that was approved, I believe, at the last council hearing, our meeting. It states specifically the 5 properties.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Yeah.
That was done on April 18th.
Okay.
Yes, there
it is. Okay. Mr. Cunningham, you made the motion. You get to vote first.
I will start you off with a yes.
Hold on. As I'm reading that, it doesn't specifically identify the properties. That is not sufficient as an identification adjacent to TCL and Rebo Road. That's not specifically identifying property that the county is intending to purchase. This is insufficient to its purpose, this thing we're doing now.
It was well defined when we discussed it.
Yeah, you discuss it, it's got to be published. It's got to be public. This is really nebulous and undefined.
If you all want to do
no.
So here's the thing. I mean, we've did numerous presentations of these 5 properties. We even showed pictures of these properties to you all. we put the amount in the budget amendment, which is what we had to do. The resolution, I haven't seen the resolution, but I'm sure the resolution, since it was done by our legal department, does the appropriate identification of what you're authorizing me to purchase. If I'm incorrect about that, then we can go back and bring it back and redo it to get you the detail that you need so that you all can vote on it and feel comfortable with it.
Well, if I might argue a contrary opinion, Mr. Chairman, it's the purpose of what we've done before is to make the funds available. It was like that money, that $1.2 million or $1.12 million or $215 that we have was not available in the budget. Now, when we purchase a piece of property, we're required to name the property and identify the source of funds. And so, that the funds are available doesn't mean that's necessarily the source of funds. The purpose of this whole exercise is to name the property and identify the source of funds, which we have not done sufficiently in 3 readings in a public hearing. That's all there is. And I may be wrong, as Stu Rodman likes to say, I may be wrong, and I'll stand corrected.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and second on the floor. We will be taking action. Seeing no further comments.
So you're saying that you're overruling our objections, sir? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But you've overruled my objection and Stu's.
Yes.
All right.
If you don't mind.
I think I need to get a legal opinion here from one of the county attorneys about what's going on here. I'd like for somebody to say emphatically from the legal department that what we're doing is legal and that there are no issues.
Mr.
Kurt,
Taylor.
you want to answer that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I state emphatically that what we're doing is legal and it will meet any test that might come their way.
Okay.
I didn't quite catch that.
He said he's declaring emphatically that what we've done is legal.
What was after that?
Kurt, can you state it again, please? It seemed like you were muffled. Mr. Taylor? Okay.
All right. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just need to plug in my headphones. As Mr. Greenway requested, I am stating emphatically that what we are doing is legal and it is proper, and you are properly identified the funding source and the properties to be purchased.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Cunningham, you made the motion. You get to vote first.
I will start you off with a yes, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Howard, you made the second.
Yes.
Mr. Somerville. You're on mute. You're still on mute.
I don't think he heard you, Joe.
I'll come back to him. Mr. Glover.
Yes.
Mr. Hervishon.
No.
Mr. Rodman.
I'll vote yes.
Mr. Lawson.
Mark Lawson, yes.
Mr. McKellen.
Yes.
Mr. Dawson.
Yes.
Mr. Flewelling.
No.
Mr. Somerville.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, so we have 9 yes and 2 no. That motion passes. We are at the second citizens' comments. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to make a comment? Seeing none.
Before you getting ready to adjourn, right?
Yes, sir.
I don't know, just looking at the budget numbers that was sent out by Pinky, and the coroner is, we're going to get a hearing from the coroner's office?
I'm trying to think if they're coming Monday or not. I'll find out if we can. We'll get them there.
I just want to know why the increase. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
We added a pathologist to the coroner's office to fulfill a facility that he's had in the coroner's office for about 7 years that has gone unused. It will ultimately result, we feel like, in a cost savings, particularly to our citizens of the county, because autopsies can be performed much quicker locally here instead of the bodies having to be shipped off to MUSC and the work done there and then reports coming back.
So is the cost of setting that hole up? I mean, that whole.
Hiring the pathologist, yes, sir. And I will send you all a detailed synopsis that goes through the cost savings that will likely be incurred as a result of this. That will explain it in more detail.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson.
Okay.
If I may, one particular thing, because folks were here tonight to talk about the senior programming at Beaufort Comp Health Building. We have no plans to depart and not offer senior programming at that facility. We are going to budget the funds necessary to rent the building where the senior programming is currently occurring there with Beaufort Jasper Comp Health, and we're providing the funding for the supplies so that there will be no disruption in the senior programming at that facility by the St. Helena Library and the Beaufort Jasper Comp Health Building.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Greenwood.
Okay, there being no further action, the county council meeting of this evening is adjourned at 7:22.